Do you want me to lead on this one?
Yeah, go for it, man.
Okay. So next we're going to look at Dive by I Am the Avalanche. This was released on the 20th of November, earlier on this month, under record labels I Surrender Records and Big Scary Monsters in the UK. It features 10 songs and is approximately 29 minutes and 9 seconds long. The album is the band's fourth studio album to date and the first in new material in approximately 6 years. The band themselves are a kind of punk outfit based in Brooklyn, New York. The album opens with the first single to be released from the album, Better Days, which we featured on day number 9 of our November Positivity playlist. And I suppose for good reason. The song opens with the lyrics, "This is the last year I go on sinking, you're not fucking drowning, don't go on wasting another, yeah, this is the last time you go on wishing you stood for something." And as I said at the time, it feels like a rousing declaration of intent and a call for arms for everybody who refuses to go out without a fight. It's a perfect example of exuberant and riotous pub rock and oi that is guaranteed to have you defiantly fist pumping the air in no time. In an interview with Rock Sound, frontman Vinny Karuna, I think that's how you pronounce his name, said that he believed that this was the obvious first song to lead with and to release as a single. He described it as a musical statement in a way of reintroducing the band and letting their fans know that they're back and better than ever. Better than ever. Likewise, he described it as an Avalanche shrinking song. So I suppose, as I said, it does feel like a kind of pub rock kind of number. And he also followed this up by saying that it's also about friends and family. However, he was quick to identify that although a lot of the songs on the album may feel as if they're referencing things that have happened in 2020, the album was actually written pre-lockdown back in 2019.
Okay.
You're No Good to Me Dead, which is the second track in the album, to me feels like it follows along the same sort of vein as the first track. Particularly that kind of breakdown where they sing, "I'm gonna make it right if it takes the rest of my fucking life," reminded me of an old NoFX song, kind of circa punk and Drublick era. And I was racking my brains trying to find the song, but I couldn't find it. It might just be a kind of familiar chord progression, but at the time I was thinking maybe Dying Degree or even kind of Laurie Myers. But I'm not too sure. I've listened to both tracks, and yeah, there's no kind of standout moments in either track that's like that I can kind of match the two up. Um, what was your initial thoughts with the first kind of opening tracks?
So, obviously, I really like Better Days.
Yeah.
I think that's a really awesome song, really awesome way to kick the album off. And I think it's followed up fairly well with You're No Good to Me Dead. But I feel like the rest of the album I feel is good, but
Yeah.
I almost feel like they've the they've started off with the best track on the album for me. But there's some good stuff on here. It's like you mentioned no effects, but I get some kind of rancid vibes as well from like it's like the kind of gruff, kind of gravelly delivery, and I'm not that au fait with the actual band members of Rancid, so I don't know if it's Lars Frederiksen or Tim Armstrong I'm really comparing them to, or both. Is it?
Both. For me, I know you're mentioning Rancid, but I think Dropkick Murphys.
Okay.
That, I mean, for me, they reminded me a lot of kind of Dropkick Murphys. Like I said, it was just that one song. I mean, it was just that particular. I don't know if it was the lyrics or if it was just that kind of chord progression, but that's what made me um, think of No Effects. But I think by and large, they sound like Dropkick Murphys to me.
Yeah, I get bits of the Wild Hearts as well because
Right.
Ginger and Wild Hearts got that real kind of gruff delivery, and they're a sort of rollicking kind of punk, kind of rock and roll band. I suppose it's kind of pub rock kind of thing as
Yeah.
well. And I listed a bunch of bands from like the early 2000s because um Vinny Karuna's previous band, the Movie Life, are kind of from that sort of scene, and a bunch of punk rock and sort of pop punk and post hardcore bands like there's like Alkaline Trio and Sum 41, maybe like bands even like Billy Talent or Bayside or Brand New or Taking Back Sunday. I've got a bunch in here. I've got Midtown, The Starting Line. Those bands don't necessarily all sound the same, but there's a kind of throwback nature to this album, I think, that harks back to that kind of period of music, and which I quite like. I mean, obviously, kind of grew up during that time, and I've got a lot of nostalgia for that era of music.
I definitely got a kind of post-hardcore vibe in kind of tracks number 4 and 5, Fake Weed and Love Song 69. Which
Well,
I've
Love Song 69 to me feels more like a ballad. Like,
well, that's kind of how I've described them as proper diamonds in the rough here. Emotive, melodic kind of ballads.
yeah.
It's maybe not those songs I'm thinking of, but certainly maybe towards the end of the album there was kind of post-hardcore kind of vibe, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
Earthquake Weather is a bit heavier, maybe, than some of the other songs, at least in the intro. Maybe that's one of the ones. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Um, I think Love Song 69 to me is definitely more like the sort of obligatory. Um, it's not quite an acoustic ballad, but it's more stripped back. But I like it. I think it's good, and there's parts on it where I think it sounds like the vocals, especially, sound like Sum 41, which is back when I liked Sum 41, like their kind of earlier stuff. So yeah, I think it's a good kind of mixture of kind of those genres, punk rock and um, pop punk and that kind of thing. But yeah, I definitely feel like for me, Better Days is the strongest track, and then everything else doesn't quite live up to that.
Because I suppose looking at it, Better Days, You're No Good to Me Dead, and Dive, which is the first three tracks in the album, were all released as singles, weren't they?
Yeah, it was Tokyo a single as well.
Tokyo was a single as well, but the first three tracks are all singles.
I think Fake Weed's all right. It doesn't. I think the thing is, there's not a ton of variation on here.
No.
It's just like they all do kind of the same thing for the most part, which is fine because it's only about half an hour long, so it doesn't necessarily need to be that varied. It's just kind of a quite a fun rollicking punk rock album.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those maybe Better Days, You're No Good to Me Dead, Are You Love Song 69 I think is actually pretty good. Um, I like the opening riff on Are You Listening? I think that's really cool. Um, Tokyo is really good, and I think it just loses its way a little bit towards the end. Maybe not quite um, as strong.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you. As I said earlier on, um, in that interview, the lead singer Vinnie Caruna kind of said that it's although this album might feel as if it's referencing things that have happened in 2020, it was written pre-lockdown, but to me it felt quite deep.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of I've written here kind of angsty lyrics, and I've written that's quite typical of the genre. So if yeah, I don't know how deep it is. I don't think I've really dived into the lyrics that hard, because it just kind of felt like these are the kind of lyrics you expect on this kind of music, if you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah,
Um, which is fine with me. Like, I think on Are You Listening in particular, um, there's the line, "This is the second act. Don't ever turn your back on the ones who walked you towards the sun. You can't face it alone. Which I think is nice. And then later on that song, there's a lyric, "I need you and I hate it," which is very like,
Oh, that's
fuck
like.
you, like kind of thing. It's very punk rock.
I think there's quite a few bits like that though, like like just wee snippets, kind of optimism. Like you mentioned, earthquake weather there earlier on. Like one of the lyrics that I've kind of picked out from there is, "You have your family, you have your friends," and the last song on the album, which I believe is "The Morning," which is again quite angsty as well. I can't quite remember what the lyrics are, but it's like, if I'm here in the morning, like I can't remember what it is, but I just remember thinking it was quite angsty. But by the same token, there is a lyric in there that says like the only thing that needs to change is that we all change for the better. So there is a wee bit of kind of optimism there, I think, to be
Yeah,
honest. It's not all kind of doom and gloom.
yeah. There's a bit on Tokyo I like, which is and there I was where maybe say that again. And there I was where you. Why can't I read this? And there I was where you took your bow. Then I hear your voice and I hit the fucking ground. Like I think that's quite cool as well. There's like, and that I think I've written here. If you brighten it up a little, put some fucking trumpets on it, and then you've got a Less Than Jake song. It's like so. There's that too.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay. Yeah.
so I think through all of that, I think what I'm trying to say is I do like this album. I think it's good. I don't think it's amazing. It's not going to blow anybody's mind, but it's like a good sort of punk rock album, and it feels like a kind of throwback um, album as well. A bit, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. Um, I've mentioned, well, we've likened it to all those bands already, so yeah, it definitely has a kind of a nostalgia to it.
Yeah. So I think if I was sticking to the absolute letter of like the rating system, I would be saying it's a 6, like for fans of the genre. But actually, I kind of quite like this a little bit more. So I think I'd give it a 7 because I do quite like it.
Well, I've given it a seven or an eight, is
Yeah,
what I've said.
and it's an easy album to listen to. It's half an hour long, so I might probably throw this on a few more times and have a bit more fun with it as well.
Yeah,
And like I said, like I'm going to be listening to Better Days a lot because
that's a banger of a tune.
that's still it's an absolute banger. It's still my favorite song on the album. Um, Absolutely. Okay, so that was Dive by I Am the Avalanche.